Everyone to the June Planning Commission meeting. We're going to start off with a word of prayer from Commissioner Byrd, and then we'll follow that by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, thank you. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order for the Planning Commission meeting. Let's go ahead and do a roll call, please, Laura.
Ward. Byrd.
Here.
Mowdy. Lowe.
Here.
Prater.
Here.
Knack. Young.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. We do have a light quorum, but it is a quorum. I want to go ahead and get this announcement out. If you are here for the North Lincoln Street rezone, that project has been tabled till next month. So I don't want to let you guys have to stand through the whole meeting, but it'll be back next month with us. So give you guys time to file out if you are here for that rezone. Appreciate you guys coming out. All right, let's go ahead and get minutes accepted from the May Planning Commission meeting. Any adjustments or corrections? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the May Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
A motion from Commissioner Prater. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Byrd. Roll call vote, please.
Prater.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Young.
Yes. All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and call to order the Board of Adjustment meeting. Roll call, please, Laura.
Ward. Byrd.
Here.
Mowdy. Lowe.
Here.
Prater.
Here.
Knack. Young.
Here. All right, if I can get acceptance of the meeting minutes from the March board meeting.
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Lowe.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Prater. Roll call vote, please.
Prater.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Young.
All right, thank you all. Let's go ahead and get started to our first item of business. Laura?
1803 North Lincoln, variance request to allow for a part of a fence to exceed the maximum 6-foot height requirement. Kevin and Stephanie Lill.
Okay, Laura, do you want to go ahead and do the staff report as well?
Okay. The staff report for this is, again, 1803 North Lincoln Street. This property is a new constructed single-family residence that is located on North Lincoln Street. It is approximately 1,000 feet west of the intersection of Highway 38 and North Lincoln Street. Recently, it was constructed with a single-family dwelling and a privacy fence was constructed. The applicant is asking for an 8-foot fence to stay remaining that has already been constructed on the rear of their property line that adjoins with the adjacent fences along the side. As you can see in the pictures that the applicant has supplied, again, the applicant has stated a letter at the end of the staff report asking for the reasoning for this variance to keep the 8-foot fence that is along the rear of their property line. I'm not sure if they've they did make it to the meeting tonight if you have any questions for them.
All right, Kevin and Stephanie, you have anything to add in terms of the report?
No, sir. Everything, unless you haven't read it yet, but the only reason we wanted the 8-foot fence is because we have 3 small children. We also have dogs and stuff. And then if we put a 6-foot fence up, the neighbors in behind us, because they have a deck that's like raised, they can see straight into our house. We have really large windows, and we like to keep the blinds up also for like sunlight to come in. So we just didn't want people to be able to see in our house while we're walking around and stuff like that. And plus, our kids have more privacy with the 8-foot fence, as you can see right there in the picture, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Is there anyone here to speak against this item? Please step up and state your name, your address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Phil Robinson, and I live in Shiloh at 12 Shenandoah Way. And I'm opposing this variance for a couple simple reasons. The first is that the codes that we've got here in Cabot were put there for several good reasons. We want to maintain, especially the residential codes, want to maintain the residential feel and appearance and a character of the neighborhoods. And I agree with the reasoning for it, trying to limit visibility and all that, but this just isn't the right place for that. It makes it appear to be more of a commercial area, fences like you would see around Walmart's Market or Home Depot, a little bit higher than those. And I know in what we read about the information that the Leals did a lot of research ahead of time, so there was information, they had information available to them. And I think what I saw was that there was some misunderstanding of that information, but even with that misunderstanding, that doesn't mean that it should still go just because of that. The codes were there when they purchased their house, and the situation was there when they purchased the house. All of that was there initially. And the final thing is that, in my experience, things that receive waivers of one sort or another or receive variances like this inadvertently just become the rule rather than the exception. And there's a lot of my history where I can give information about that, but I don't want to see that become the rule, and the fear of litigation may make that the rule in the future. So nothing personal there, and I can understand the need and understand the problem, just the wrong location.
All right, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Anyone else here to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing none. Commissioners have any questions?
Didn't we a few months ago, didn't we propose going to 8 feet on that fence? Or correct me if I'm wrong.
There was an item that came up where we had discussed that, and I think that was a commercial to and a residential proximity.
Okay, it keeps coming up in residential areas, and you know that we're going to have. Are we going to give this to everybody? We can keep giving variances like this, or you know, we start on a precedent here.
I think it's a case by case. I think code requires screening between commercial and residential. Laura helped me with but I think you can go up to 8 feet with a fence on the commercial where it abuts that.
Commercial, I think you can even go up to 10 feet.
Yeah, so I thought we were going to 8 feet on residential.
Not residential to residential. Residential to commercial, we discussed that. Any other questions, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion to approve from Commissioner Lowe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Byrd. Roll call vote, please, Laura.
Prater,
No.
Byrd,
Yes.
Lowe,
No.
Young.
No. All right, that variance is not approved, so the fence will have to be adjusted to 6 feet. All All right, anything else? Board Commission or Board of Variance? Let's go ahead and adjourn, adjustment, and let's move over into our Plan Commission meeting. I've got 7:10, and let's go ahead and open the public hearing for our first item under the Planning Commission agenda, item A. Laura?
8708 A.J. Patton Road, rezoned from C3 to I1.
All right. The staff report when you're ready.
Okay, this property is located at 8701 A.J. Patton Road, which is actually the corner of A.J. Patton and John Hardin Drive. The Shirley Family Land Development owners actually own this property. The applicant is actually a family member. They are proposing to rezone this property from commercial C3 to I1 for storage use. The property is majority of the property is currently vacant, but it does have some structures on the north end of the property that still exist. Across the street across A.J. Patton is actually outside the city limits. Then the other property that adjoins this property is currently zoned C3 commercial district. The applicant is asked that he is wanting to use it for storage and use the current ingress-egress for the property that exists on the driveways of A.J. Patton. He's wanting to use it for open storage. He is here in the audience if you have any questions for him as well, and if you have any other questions, I can address them if you have any.
All right, thank you, Laura. Is the applicant here? Want to step up to the mic and speak? If we give your name and address.
Good evening, Maurice Shirley Jr. This property's been in the family since 1970. When I was just a boy, we moved there, had that for a family residence for years. 2008 was when we were annexed. We sought annexation into the city along with the other properties that's in that triangle, basically of Highway 5, 67, Service Road, and A.J. Patton. And at that time, when we were coming into the city along with Miss Jerry Horn, we were asking for C3, understanding that allowed outdoor storage and display to be done in that area. Over the years, that's been what has happened with most of the properties there. They've been used in a commercial basis. As you can see, of course, if you go along Highway 5, and also along the service road, David's Fire Equipment is next door to us on the north side. At this time, what we're looking at is to utilize it as outdoor open self-storage for such things as RVs, travel trailers, boats, and equipment. We understand that the current zoning ordinance, I think, was changed from at some point in the last year to 2 years, that it no longer allows just outdoor storage in C3, and that for us to do that, it would need to be rezoned to I1, where it would allow for the outdoor storage that we're wanting to do. I appreciate your consideration this evening, and we'll try to answer any questions that might not have been answered by the material that was previously submitted to the Commission staff.
Maurice, what kind of items you say are going to be stored? What type of items?
We're looking at such things as RVs, travel trailers, boats, possibly equipment if someone's got some small equipment. I'm not looking at putting huge equipment like you would currently see around the corner on Highway 5, but if someone had like a work trailer or something that they wanted to store in there, we would consider something like that.
Okay. What type of surface would you think about putting down if you were going to be storing?
Well, currently it's all just topsoil, but that would be graded to make sure that we had a good base, and if needed, we would put slate in there to fill, and then put finished surface of gravel on that for parking.
What code requires, asphalt or a paved surface for parking? I think we've made
Hard surface.
made exceptions for some of the back storage areas before. Okay. Commissioners have any questions for Maurice?
How about fencing and barriers?
Well, I'm looking at, for the entire area that we fence, we're not intending to fence the entire area, the whole 2.5 acres to begin with, but start with about a 1 acre area and get that fence with an 8-foot fence around it for security purposes for anyone storing there and have controlled access to it. But if we had sufficient demand, then we could fence around the entire thing. But what I was looking at was an 8-foot chain link fence that would go around it.
So you will only store these things in that fenced area, within that fenced area?
Yes, ma'am. I would say I'm not anticipating storing things outside of a fenced area because I don't think most folks would want to park in an area with that volume of traffic up and down the service road in A.J. Patton. Though I don't think there would be a great deal of interest in parking outside of a secured area.
Any other questions?
Their structures are still on the property, is that correct?
There were 2 old mobile homes. As I said, my dad and mother lived there until just a few years ago, and during the time that they were there were 2 mobile homes to the north side of the old house, and Dad had actually started tearing those down or removing them, although he was in his 80s, and that became too much of a project for him. So those have been removed at this point. The half constructed, half deconstructed mobile homes, they are no longer there. The original home, which I will tell you just a point of interest, the front 2 rooms of the old house that is still standing there, the property abstract indicates that they were constructed in about 1860. So we do still have the old home that's sitting there at this point, and would look at working and rehabilitating it if it's feasible to do so financially and have some office space in it, but that's not something that I'm looking at doing immediately.
Any other questions? Thank you, Maurice. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Since this is still a public hearing, anyone else here to speak for or against this item? If you would, please state your name.
My name is Chris Ringgold, and I live at 8705 A.J. Patton, across the street from the residence that is still remaining on the property. I think the biggest problem that me and my wife have with this going across the street, while it is in the county, there's 5 residents across A.J. Patton from this proposed rezone. We bought the property about 3 years ago from my mom. In fact, I believe the Shirleys purchased their property from my grandfather. So the land across the street has been in my family since probably the 1950s. I think that my grandfather was born in the house that he's talking about, or he lived there. So our biggest concern is, what are we going to see? There's not any definitive plans that's been submitted to my knowledge of what's going to be there. I'm not familiar with Cabot. I'm more familiar with Little Rock. I moved from Maumelle. So I know that when the FOP tried to do some stuff with the police department, it was a bunch of beautification that was involved in whatever we were trying to do to an area. And I just, for the people that live across the street of A.J. Patton, that is Lonoke County / Cabot, that doesn't get well maintained as it is already, no blame to anybody, but the increased traffic with the 4 entrances off of A.J. Patton to this proposed property, and going from C3, which he can have a retail or whatever C3 allows. But going outside our driveway, and we have a gate, controlled access to our driveway, and there's another residence on A.J. Patton across the street that they have a fence around their neighborhood, around their house. I just don't think it would be nice to see boats and RVs as soon as across the street. I don't know what kind of offset it has to have from A.J. Patton to where how close he can put the fence. Basically, the 4 or 5 lots that's being proposed was residential. It just got zoned C3 when it got annexed into the city. Davis Fire Equipment went in there, I don't know how long ago, it's been there for a long time. So while Davis Fire Equipment is adjacent to this property, Davis Fire Equipment doesn't use that access off of A.J. Patton to get into their business. They use the access coming from John Harden. So I think that our concern is what's going to be there. You know, once it gets rezoned, there's a for lease sign currently on their property. You know, we've lived there for 3 years since COVID, and he is correct. I'm glad that the mobile homes were finally removed. You can see through them the entire time. I never called zoning. I never made a complaint, knowing they were outside of what they should have been. But I am glad they're moved. But all the trees have been removed from the right side triangle that's at the corner lot between A.J. Patton and John Harden. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chris from the commissioners?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else here to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing none. Commissioners have any questions?
Well, again, that's where I was kind of going with the barrier and the fencing and stuff, and Ms. Nobles tells me we'll require a site plan review for this, you know, and we may want to require some kind of a hedgerow or a covered fence or something like that, and something we can look into later as when the site plan comes up. Is that correct?
That's right. So it is currently zone C3 and going to I-1. Storage of RVs and the like are not allowed under C3, even with a conditional use permit, correct?
Correct.
So that's the purpose of going to the I-1 zoning. That whole area on the map is C3, extending all the way down from Highway 5 all the way down to the highway along A.J. Patton Road. So any rezone of an industrial nature would be the only one in that whole area of this part of town. So just consider that'd be an isolated spot zone along the freeway for an industrial area. And back to Chris, your concerns about what are you going to see once we get to the site plan point? If this does pass, it would be required for them to bring a site plan to the commission and have a landscape plan, screening plan, show us what's going to happen with any type of surfaces, improvements, and that sort of thing. So it would be required for them to provide the items to meet code for a new site plan, whatever they decide to do.
But there would be conditional use approval up to that, but the site plan doesn't have to be approved?
So tonight's just a rezone.
Correct.
And then the next step would be a site plan submission to Laura's office.
Okay. So it's just basically a blanket rezone from C3 to...
That's all we're voting on tonight, yes, sir, okay. is just the rezoning from a C3 to I-1. So
I would, just on the I would still oppose, just for the lack of knowledge of what's going to go through from a commercial district across the
sure.
street versus industrial.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
We've got that. Thank you.
And even if it passes through here, it still does have to go before city council.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
regardless of the zoning, anything that develops on that site requires a site plan review, whether it's C3 or I1, it's just the uses that are allowed on that property at that time.
Correct.
So the things that Chris was talking about, access and screening and all that, that depending on the zoning that's there and the use, and that's reviewed at the time of site plan.
Correct.
Any other discussion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve, Commissioner
Second.
Lowe, second from Commissioner Prater. Roll call vote, please, Laura.
Prater,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Byrd,
No.
Young,
Yes. It's 3-1. The motion does pass for that rezone.
no, it does not. It does not have all 4 votes.
That's right. I'm sorry. Expunge that. We have to have 4, since we have 4 quorum members. So it does not pass. Sorry. Have to have 4-0 for that to pass. All right. So you might get with Laura's office to talk about next step if you guys want to do that. All right. Next items, item B and C are tabled. Do we need to go through those?
Yes, so item B is North Lincoln Street, Tract 1, rezone from R1 to C3, Davidson Engineering. The applicant sent me an email this afternoon with a letter requesting that this item, as well as the Tract 2, that they're asking for a rezone from R1 to R4H, be tabled until the next month's meeting, so that they can have their items all together on the same agenda. We will have to vote separately on these items being tabled.
Motion to table.
Got a motion to table. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Byrd. Roll call vote, please.
Prater,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Then the North Street Tract 2 zone, rezoned from R1 to R4H, Davidson Engineering.
Motion to table.
Got a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Prater. Roll call vote, please.
Prater,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Young.
Yes. All right, those 2 items are tabled. All right, it is 7:28, and we are going to close the public hearing, and we'll go into the first item of new business for the commission, item A. Laura?
Okay, this is Lot 1, Little Caesars Edition. This property is located at 303 South 2nd Street. This is just a formality of cleaning up and finishing the project. As many of you probably know, that Little Caesars is open and doing business. This final plat is just to finish up their order of business to get the property platted into one lot that includes their building lines and easements. So this is located at the corner of West Myrtle and South 2nd Street. The engineer that submitted everything has everything in order except for just a couple little minor things that we can, as staff, take care of. So if you have any questions, I can address them. If not, this is just a standard final plat.
Any questions from the commissioners? I entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Prater, second from Byrd. Roll call vote, please.
Prater,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Young.
Yes. All right, 4-0. Motion does pass. All right, last item on the agenda, community input. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share with the commission? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. See you guys next month. We are adjourned. Thank you.